Hey, He-Man!
Oh, what's up, Skeletor?
I figured it was time to do leg day, right? I mean, we gotta keep in shape.
No, that's okay. Not really feeling it today, Skeletor. I'm actually more concerned about my chest right now. Get these pecs. Put on the girth. That's what it's about, Skeletor.
I mean, I guess so, but I'd hate to lose definition in other areas. Then again, missing one day can't really mean that much, can it? Well, screw it. We'll worry about it later. Yo, He-Man! Leg day!
You're joking, right? I mean, look at me. This is what it's about right here, Skeletor. These pecs, this girth. This is what it's about. Look at that stomach. Oh, I'm so ripped.
I mean, you look good, sure, but I've literally grown a beard waiting for leg day. And I can't help but notice that there seem to be some gains in some places and some losses in others.
Not gonna matter. Not gonna matter in any way whatsoever, Skeletor. Soon, I'm gonna have the biggest upper body that anybody's ever seen. Anybody on this entire shelf. When it comes right down to it, the legs won't matter one little bit. Anyways, legs day literally makes my legs hurt. And I don't like that, so I'm not doing it. Anyways, you should work on your chest with me. Come on. You want to hit the gym? Let's skip the legs day together and get that upper body getting real nice.
You know, this is your fault. Your fault. I look ridiculous, and it's completely your fault.
I won't argue with that, but the results... Oh, look at that. Oh, who needs legs? So I've debated for a while about whether or not I was going to pick these up. I fought with myself. I really did. Because, well, in the simplest terms, I don't want to feel like I'm falling into FOMO. I don't want to collect on the idea of a fear of missing out. That if I don't get them, I won't complete the line. But over the course of time, I have found that I think I like every single Masterverse figure that has been released. Even the ones I don't care for. The ones that don't immediately strike me and say, oh man, I have to have it. Once I get my hands on them, it sells me. Like, this toy line is pure imagination. Eternal concepts. It amazes me. It's so good. It really is. And it hits almost every single cue that I want it to hit. It's fantastic all the time. It is. For me. See, I don't get that when I pick up Origins. Some of the Origins, I pick it up and I'm like, this is awesome. And some of the Origins, I pick it up, turn it around, kind of look at it, get an idea, put it back on the shelf and go, I hope they make a Masterverse. I do that a lot. I've passed on certain Origin characters just because I'm hoping that a Masterverse is coming out down the line. Because I just feel like this is an unbelievably fantastic line in so many ways that I finally just pretty much made the decision that if there was ever a toy line I wanted to complete, I wanted all of it, it's probably this. So a deal came up, and I've been on the fence about these two for a long time. And that deal was like, hey, $7? And I was like, whoa! Like, it was cheap. It was cheap enough that it absolutely floored me. And I said, what's the worst that happens? I literally got both of these guys for less money than it would have cost me to buy one. At that point, the worst that happens is these turn out to be the first Masterverse characters that I don't like. I haven't even seen that show yet. Maybe it's awesome. Maybe it's different. I mean, I can easily look at them and tell that it's different. But that doesn't make it bad. I like the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. Moving off of that, the 2000 TMNT, I like that a lot too. I didn't like the end of it. Like when they started time traveling and all that stuff. That's fine. Then, the 2013 Ninja Turtles came out. And my first reaction was, I don't like that animation. I don't like it. I don't even want to touch it. I don't want to see it. That reaction, that it's not my Turtles thing, I'm glad that I was able to get away from it. Because I've done that with certain properties in my life. And then found out later that if I never bothered to see it, if I never bothered to check it out, if I never bothered to give it a chance, if I never bothered to play it, if I never bothered to try it out, I don't know. And the 2013 Turtles is easily my favorite series that they have done to this point. It's so good. So what's to say that I don't also end up loving this for what it is? I don't know. And I can't know yet. That's one of the things that kept me from buying them. Is what if I buy these and then I don't like the series they come from? But you know a series that I don't like for Masters of the Universe? Adventures. New Adventures. I don't really care for Space He-Man. But you know what I put on the shelf and actually liked it a lot? Space He-Man. I did. I bought him for Masterverse. Put him on the shelf. He's right there. And was like, this guy is awesome. Because he was. Oh, in the annotation, there you go. If you want to see me talk all about him and talk about how I don't really like him and then kind of get into the figure, because toys and shows are also separate. Sometimes you can really like something and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're like a huge fan of a show or something. Sometimes figures speak to you, man. Sometimes that's the only reason you need to buy a figure. It's awesome. I want it. Let's check these guys out. Alright, so here we are. These are, once again, I've said this 1,000 times, these boxes, they're perfect. Like, I really think for in-box collectors, this is as good as it gets. You could see what series it's supposed to come from. You could see what character it's supposed to be. You could see pretty much the entirety of the toy. In a lot of cases, you can see the entire toy. You know what you bought. You know what you're displaying. It's perfect. It really is. So, let's see. First, we got a nice CGI. I mean, this is, how do I put this? This is artwork, but it's done so well, it gives me the CGI impression. I really like it, actually. I'm kind of getting an idea of what this is going on here. And man, Skeletor's actually looking really cool here. Like, I really like this. While I'm not 100% sold on this, this is actually really, really impressive. I kind of love it, actually. Let's see. Going back here, these are the two backs of the boxes. Right here, it says that Skeletor, Prince Keldor, once tried to take over Castle Grayskull, but the dark magic Havoc cursed him, slowly devouring his flesh. Now, free from his stasis shell, the Mad Prince once again craves power. This time, embracing his curse as a blessing, allowing the magic to consume and transform him into Skeletor, the Dark Master of Havoc. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So the power that he's using in this continuity is actually doing this to him, which we actually got to see in Revolution recently. When you touch the Havoc staff, it kind of corrupts you immediately because it's a certain kind of magic, and magic almost seems to work on a type of emotional spectrum, almost like the Green Lantern Corps, where Zor magic has a certain appearance and a certain demeanor and creates a certain kind of personality in the people that use it. Havoc also does, and now that the other magic, oh man, I can't remember what it was called all of a sudden, but the serpent magic, that also creates a certain kind of personality when you touch it, as well as a certain kind of look and as a certain kind of primal nature. That's interesting to me, in all honesty. And I would argue, I don't know this for sure, but I would argue if Zor magic can create, like, because the Zor magic seems to be able to pick a guardian. Yes, Zor seems to be, like, the magic of Zord seems to be tied to Castle Grayskull directly. It's there. It doesn't seem to go away from Castle Grayskull, unless you count the new continuity where she was able to step away from Castle Grayskull. But even she was a special case specifically. They kind of talk about that in Revolution and Revelation. So I think I really like this idea that we're really kind of leaning into this. And I would love to see, as my point that I kind of backed away from, I'd love to see this concept that we have He-Man, which seems to be bestowed his power from Castle Grayskull, but specifically chosen and bestowed that power by Zor. Does that mean that somewhere in the universe, somewhere, Havoc Magic has a secrets place, a place of dark, powerful secrets that inhabit unbridled power, and that sorcerer, whomever is currently holding the power of Havoc, could possibly pick a champion? Is there something like that somewhere in the universe if we extended that idea all the way out? I'd be very interested to see storylines that take advantage of something like that. In the cross-sell, I have every character except for Zodak. I have not bought Zodak yet. I do want that Zodak, so nothing here is necessarily something that I'm looking to skip. And I do like every single one of them. I've only done videos here because I'm getting these two out of the way right now, and she will be down the line because I do have her, and we're going to end up talking about her as well. So, let's open these guys. All right, here they are. Let's get into the good, the bad, and the skelly. Right off the bat, I'm going to say this. These figures are exactly what they are supposed to be. Very much so. They are the CGI characters with all the ridiculous proportions that come with being those characters. I mean, you gotta give it to them. Look, here's He-Man. There he is. He's got his tiny head, he's got his ridiculous upper body, and he's got his chicken legs. Like, what? Maybe it worked for the animation style, but what is that? What is that look? Like, why? I can't help but laugh about it. He looks a bit ridiculous. Are there things I like? Okay, so let's talk about a couple things that I do actually like. One, I guess the ridiculousness of the sword is cool. But I'm also going to go a step here and tell you that the sword is one of the reasons that I think I don't necessarily dig the He-Man's overall look. I think he's fine, but I also think that I'm drawing inspiration here for the things that I like on something else entirely. This guy reminds me of Siegfried from Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur. That's what he reminds me of. He's got his big giant sword, and there he is. He looks like a knight, right? Kind of like a knight I mean, that's the thing that I get from him. That's what he looks like. He looks like Siegfried, Soul Calibur 2, somewhere in that era. Maybe not Soul Calibur 3. Soul Calibur 3 alternate costume, maybe. That's what I'm getting off of him. Like, you got the little battle skirt here. You got the boots with the greaves and everything like that. You got the arm guards. You got the muscles showing. You have the shirt. You have the belt, the chest belt thing, the harness, the battle harness. And his sword is actually designed with that little peg there to go right on his back and sit on his back, as you saw when I took it off his back. That's fine. And for what it's worth, as you notice, he's holding that form. He's not giving me trouble. He's not falling over when I move him around. That's also kind of important. I think I would have trouble balancing him in certain ways and whatnot. In fact, just for the sake of, let's put the sword in his hand right here. And in fact, let me see here. Does this seem better or does this seem better? This might seem better because I think it's easier on this side to hold the peg or to hide the peg. So let's get that sword in that hand. Oh my gosh. He's going to give me a lot of trouble. His hands are big and they're thick. Come on. Get it in there. There we go. I got it. This sword is supposed to be big enough that he can hold it two hands. If his mighty girth was not in the way, I think you could probably get away with it. But he tends to have the same problem as characters like The Thing have. I mean, look at this. This is pretty good. That's as much as I can get them. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. He holds this sword with one mighty arm, which is not a bad thing, but that's how he holds the sword. And he's standing up. I got him. I got him without any real difficulties. I got him standing up. He's standing there. He's perfect. He's fine. But, and this could be just me, when I look at He-Man, when I look at barbarians, I prefer Conan the Barbarian in his earlier life stuff when he was basically a big, naked, wandering barbarian man. I mean, that's what I like. It is a preference. That's all it is. He reminds me more of Siegfried, not more of He-Man. He reminds me more of like a knight or some kind of defender or something like that, a hero class from a fighting game with a giant sword. He doesn't necessarily remind me of a barbarian Conan-style figure, He-Man type thing. He just doesn't. Is that a problem? Not necessarily. I'm okay with the idea that things change, and I didn't hate the new looks for He-Man that showed up in the Revolution. So, like, I'm not against there being changes in the way that he looks. I'm just saying, at first glance, that's what I get from him. But I also said that with Space He-Man when I talked about how he wasn't exactly my favorite concept. He did come with two punchy hands, and we'll set him to the side. Skeletor is this monstrous thing. He also comes with two different hands. He comes with a skeleton grippy hand, and he comes with the normal punchy hand, which is fine. And then, of course, on the character currently, I am using his skeleton punchy hand and his human gripping hand. So the human gripping hand can actually hold the Havoc Staff, which, that is a wild thing in general. Let's look at that Havoc Staff for a second, shall we? Look at it. That's cool. Like, I like this, and I like all this stuff here that's coming down. It's got this chain. I'm not sure if that's supposed to, maybe it wraps around the hand and goes up. I'm going to make a random judgment that this little thing here, maybe it's like that. Maybe I can get it up and like it so that it's stuck to him. Maybe it's something like that. Like once he touched it, he can't get rid of it. And it is what it is. He does have a slight problem. Two problems. One, his head. This is what we got going on. And we're not going to get it much better than that. Because this is a solid piece, and I think you could take it off. It's the kind of rubber that makes me feel like you could probably take it off if you could pull the harness up or whatever. But I imagine they're making it difficult for me to do so on purpose. This might be glued here. I don't know that for sure. And this part goes all the way around and connects. This might not come off at all. I have a feeling that it's there to stay. The other problem that I'm having is that while it looks kind of cool to have this bone hand and whatnot, as soon as I went to change this hand out, I accidentally pulled the whole thing off. Because when I pulled at the wrist, this part came off. Not that that's giving me too much of a problem. As you can see, I got it right back on there. It's fine. It wasn't too hard to get back on there, but it was an issue. And now we come to the joke of these figures. Even though this is done right, they are the figures that they were promised to be. They match the aesthetic of the show that if you loved it and you wanted these characters, you got them, and you got them exactly the way you wanted them. But the skinny legs are an actual issue, especially on him. These things, immediately, he came out of the box, just wobble legs all over the place. Did I maybe get unlucky and just happen to get the one that was kind of wobble legs? Maybe. Because his legs seem like they're fine, for what it's worth. And they're not giving me that much trouble. Well, now there we go. Now I got him balanced again. But his legs I got to constantly mess with now because they're like wobbly. And I have a feeling that inevitably they would have done that no matter what I did. Because in the long run, this is a lot of weight up here. I mean, you can feel it. When you hold this guy, there's a lot of upper weight. And then all the legs have to support all of that. He does look cool, though. I like that there's all this, like, damage here. Like I said, like he's supposed to be rotting or kind of suffering because he touched the Havoc Staff. And I like the fact that his hand is exposed like that, and I kind of dig this. I like that the Havoc Staff has this chain that's kind of connected to him. The demon feet are pretty neat and everything like that. In design-wise, he's pretty solid. I can't really complain about the two figures. They're not bad. But they are far from going up on my shelf as being my favorite figures. Like, by far. And I've mentioned this before in a couple of other videos. I normally don't buy gigantic, chonky figures. I normally don't like the way they turn out. These guys suffer some of the same problems that exist with giant muscle characters. I don't really buy Incredible Hulks. I want one for the shelf. Because I want one for the Avengers team. Makes sense. I feel like he's a staple. I feel like I want him. I got the Thing. Cool. I'm going to get Colossus and Juggernaut. Cool. And now I'm running out of things that I can say that I want that are big chonky boys. Usually these big giant figures are heavy and they work against themselves. Usually their articulation is limited and their size usually hurts them in terms of being able to take poses and things of that nature. Not that you can't do it, but they kind of work against themselves. And these guys, I was realizing it as well. Their biceps and whatnot are almost in their way. They have the double elbow thing, but like, it's not doing them a whole lot of favors. I mean, I really had to fight. You saw me trying to get He-Man to get in there so that he could hold, you know what I'm talking about? That's not going to happen for him. Just like the Thing that is currently released on the market, I can't get him to do this. Kind of a staple of being the Thing is to crack them rock knuckles, right? He can't do it. He can't do it. Did I love the Thing? Oh, yes. That figure is fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's on my shelf twice. And I know I'm going to like things like the Juggernaut, and I know I'm going to like Colossus, but I'm a little more forgiving of them. These guys have one major flaw that those don't have. They skipped leg day. And it does hurt them when you try to balance them, move them, or do certain poses like where if you take a knee or something of that sort, or if you like put a leg forward, like I like to do sometimes battle things. It's true that I ran out of a little bit of space in here, but you can still find a lot of my figures on the shelf where they're like crouched down, or they're taking a stance, or they got one foot forward, or they got one back, or they've just landed or whatever, or like my Iron Man that's on the shelf that has 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, he's putting his hands out and he's kind of shooting. Like, these are poses that you would like to take on your shelf. These guys have trouble doing it. Not that you can't get them to do it, because I know sometimes I say something like that and immediately it's in the, well, you know, you got to work with them. I can get mine into so-and-so stances and yada yada. Yes, you can. I get that. But on average, these guys are more stand there figures because their legs have to support an awful lot of weight for the upper body, which I honestly do believe is part of what's hurting Skeletor and why his legs got wobbly very fast. It's because that's probably a lot of weight the way that everything is put in, and it probably messes with the legs over time. Do I dislike these figures? Not necessarily. I think they do exactly what they promise. And I think that's important. And I've argued it on this show a couple of times. It blows my mind sometimes that people will buy a figure and then get mad that they bought the figure. Case in point, one that's coming down the line. Let me scoot over here real quick. This is coming down the line. This is Beastman. And this specifically is Revelation Beastman. This is Beastman after the time skip. He's supposed to look a certain way. As far as I could tell by looking at him, he looks that way. I think he looks right, because he's based on Revelation. I do not necessarily compare him to the new Eternia Beastman. That's a different time, different style, different lineage, different design. I'm not going to look at the 97 Rogue necessarily and then be mad that she looks like a cartoon. Shouldn't she? Isn't that what X-Men 97 is? But I see it all the time, where people will buy a figure and then complain. These are exactly what they promised to be. These are the He-Man CGI characters. They're right there. And looking at them, first, second, third, fourth, fifth glance, they are those CGI 3D models brought to life right there in front of me. And if this was my favorite He-Man, I would honestly be thrilled. So I think they're good figures, but I think they come with issues. And I think some of those issues are justified in why some people have skipped these figures. I think some issues as to why these figures have been skipped are not necessarily justified. Because I would argue that I think a lot of people probably never saw this show or gave it like one episode and decided it was just not for them. Don't really know anything about it and moved on. Kind of like how a lot of people were getting a lot of views off doing things like bad-mouthing Revelation while talking storylines that they had never actually seen. And you know what channels you are. And if you're being completely honest with yourself, you know what channels I'm talking about that would often reference material and claim that something was happening in the show, that then if you bothered to watch the 5 episodes, followed by another 5 episodes, you would have immediately said, where's this thing they're talking about? Because I don't see it. Because it didn't happen. I think that those kinds of things also keep people away from these figures. Now, before we move on from that point, is that wrong? Not necessarily. If these don't speak to you, you shouldn't put them on your shelf. That's simple. You shouldn't put them on your shelf. If they do speak to you, they should go on your shelf. Because that's why we collect. We collect the things that speak to us. We collect the things that say something about us. We collect the things that bring us joy. And this is our hobby. And my collection should not look like your collection. And your collection should not look like my collection. Everything up here says something about me. It doesn't have to say a thing about you. And what these say about me is that I'm very open to the interpretation, the alternate interpretations of things that I like. Doesn't mean I completely buy into them. But just like Space He-Man, I can appreciate where the idea is going. I don't love it. And that's where these guys sit. They sit in a strange gray area. They're solid figures. They're exactly what they promise to be. They don't necessarily speak 100% to me, but I do kind of dig them for exactly what they are. It's kind of like that 4-pack of Ninja Turtles that's currently at Walmart that I saw recently. Those are awesome Ninja Turtles. If I had them, I'd be like, hey, these are awesome. But at the same time, are they my Ninja Turtles? No. And if I'm collecting a very specific Ninja Turtles, am I really going to go out of my way to just put a bunch of the other ones on my shelf? No. So I completely understand why these guys have been passed up and why they're on clearance. When you do find them, you don't really have to pay much to get your hands on them. But if they speak to you at all, if this has opened your eyes or made you interested in any way, and now that they're on sale, maybe you wouldn't mind it, owning them, owning a piece of He-Man history, because that's what it is. If for no other reason than now they're like $7, if that gets you to buy them, then I'm happy to see them on people's shelves. That's why I have them. They're part of Masterverse. I love Masterverse. And when it all comes down to it, whether I love or hate this show in the long run, this is now a part of He-Man history. And I have a little part of that on my shelf, just like New Adventures He-Man. And I can live with that because I really love Masters of the Universe. In a strange way, even parts of it that I don't necessarily know or love yet. Even some of it that I don't even like. That's wild to me. I've become a huge fan of Masters of the Universe in ways that sometimes I don't even stop to consider. I don't know why, but this property just speaks to me. And to have part of it, a little part of the history on my shelf, $7 is beyond worth it. I'm gonna get out of here.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.